For my American History CCT project, I've chosen Gerald Rudolph Ford Jr. as my president. He was born as Leslie Lynch King Jr. on July 14, 1913, Omaha, Nebraska, and died December 26, 2006, age 93, in Rancho Mirage, California. Before Ford went into office, he was a lieutenant commander in World War II and served from 1942 to 1946. He won the American Campaign Medal and the World War II Victory Medal in his time served. Ford would eventually go on to study law at Yale University and get his undergraduate degree, and then soon later get his master's at the University of Michigan. When Gerald Ford was elected into office, he was an American politician who served as the 30th President of the United States and represented the Republican Party. Ford was vice president for Richard Nixon from 1973 to 1974 until he became president due to the Watergate scandal, allowing him to serve in office from 1974 to 1977. The first lady at the time was Betty Bloomer, or otherwise known as Betty Ford. Gerald Ford's children were Michael, John, Stephen, and Suzanne. Gerald Ford's vice president was Nelson Rockefeller. Nelson Rockefeller was an administrator for the Rockefeller Center, American businessman, philanthropist, public servant, and politician. He served as the 41st vice president of the United States from 1974 to 1977. The economy was a major issue during Ford's presidency. In October 1974, in response to rising inflation, Ford went before the American public and asked them to whip inflation now. As part of this program, he urged people to wear win buttons all the time. Inflation was believed to be the primary threat to the economy, more so than growing unemployment. There was a belief that controlling inflation would help reduce unemployment. To rein in inflation, it was necessary to control the public spending, try to mesh service and sacrifice. Wynne called for all Americans to reduce their spending and consumption on October 4, 1974. Ford gave a speech in front of a joint session of Congress. As a part of his speech, he kicked off the Wynne campaign. Over the next 9 days, over 100,000 Americans mailed in Wynne pledges. The main point of that speech was to introduce to Congress a 1-year 5% income tax increase on corporations and wealthy individuals. This plan would also take $4.4 billion out of the budget, bringing federal spendings down to $300 billion at the time. Inflation was over 12%. In January 1975, Ford proposed a 1-year tax reduction of $16 billion to stimulate economic growth, along with spending cuts to avoid inflation. Ford is criticized greatly for quickly switching from advocating a tax increase to a tax reduction. In Congress, the proposed amount of the tax reduction increased to $22.8 billion in tax cuts and lacked spending cuts. In March 1975, Congress passed and Ford signed into law these income tax rebates as part of the Tax Reduction Act of 1975. This resulted in a federal deficit of around $53 billion for the 1975 fiscal year and $73.7 billion for 1976. In December 1974, months after Ford took office, North Vietnamese forces invaded the province of Phu Long. General Tran Van Tra sought to gauge any South Vietnamese or American response to the invasion, as well as to solve the logistical issues before proceeding with the invasion. As North Vietnamese forces advanced, Ford requested Congress to approve a $722 million aid package for South Vietnam, funds that had been promised by the Nixon administration. Congress voted against the proposal by a wide margin. Senator Jacob K. Javits offered large sums for evacuation, but not one nickel for military aid. President Thieu resigned on April 21, 1975, publicly blaming the lack of support from the United States for the fall of his country. 2 days later, on April 23rd, Ford gave a speech at Tulane University. In that speech, he announced that Vietnam was over as far as America was concerned. That announcement was met with thunderous applause. A 1975 act appropriated $455 million toward the cost of assisting the settlement of Indo-Chinese refugees, and over 130,000 Vietnamese refugees came to the United States in 1975, and 1,000 more escaped from Vietnam in the years that followed. On September 8, 1974, President of the United States Gerald Ford issued a Proclamation 4311, which gave Richard Nixon a full and unconditional pardon for any crimes he may have committed against the United States while president. In a televised broadcast to the nation, Ford explained that he felt the pardon was in the best interest of the country, and that the Nixon's family situation was a tragedy that we have all played a part in. The Nixon pardon was highly controversial, and critics made the assumptions and claimed a corrupt bargain had been struck between two men, that Ford's pardon was granted in exchange for Nixon's resignation, elevating Ford to the presidency. In conclusion, Gerald Ford played a very significant role in American history during his presidency, due to his worsening of the economy, ending of the Vietnam War, and pardoning of Richard Nixon.